Just a moment ago, something subtle but powerful shifted in the global music industry. Not a song release, not a surprise performance, but a quiet signal that made executives, luxury investors, and marketing strategists lean forward in their chairs. What if Jungkook and Lisa are no longer just global pop icons, but strategic assets reshaping how K-pop conquers the United States? And what if most fans are only seeing the surface? At first glance, it looks familiar. Massive fandoms, viral moments, record-breaking streams. But underneath the noise, there's a deeper layer at work, one built on brand value, long-term investment, and global influence. This isn't about chasing charts anymore. This is about positioning power in the world's most competitive entertainment and consumer market. For years, the USA has been the final boss of global pop culture. Not because of talent, but because of infrastructure, distribution, advertising, capital, and most importantly, perception. Breaking America means more than selling music. It means becoming culturally unavoidable. That's where Jungkook and Lisa Manoban, the global superstar from BLACKPINK, quietly changed the game. The trigger moment didn't arrive with a press conference. It came through alignment. Jungkook's partnership with Calvin Klein wasn't just a fashion endorsement. It was a signal. Calvin Klein doesn't chase hype. It invests in longevity. When Jungkook from BTS stepped into that global campaign, he wasn't just wearing a brand. He was entering a business ecosystem that understands Western consumer psychology, identity marketing, and generational loyalty. Overnight, the narrative shifted from K-pop idol to global male icon, a category with far higher revenue ceilings. At the same time, Lisa's presence within the LVMH universe, through Louis Vuitton and Bulgari, was doing something even more powerful. Luxury conglomerates don't gamble. Every ambassador is chosen based on data, audience demographics, purchasing behavior, regional influence, and long-term brand safety. Lisa wasn't selected because she's popular. She was selected because she converts attention into aspiration and aspiration into revenue. That's a completely different level of value. Here's where the story gets interesting. When these partnerships went live, the impact wasn't theoretical. Sales spikes followed. Social media engagement exploded beyond music platforms into finance, fashion, and lifestyle spaces. Search interest in both artists began overlapping with luxury consumer keywords in the USA, Europe, and Australia. This is what marketers call the halo effect, when an individual elevates not just a product, but an entire brand ecosystem around them. But the real secret sits beneath all of this. Fan bases are no longer just audiences. They are consumer engines. Highly organized, emotionally invested, and globally connected. When Jungkook or Lisa moves, millions don't just watch, they act. They buy. They share. They normalize luxury consumption across younger demographics that brands have struggled to reach for decades. That kind of influence isn't replaceable, and companies know it. Midway through this shift, something unexpected happened. The conversation changed. Media coverage stopped framing K-pop as a trend and started treating it as an economic force. Analysts began asking different questions. Not is K-pop sustainable, but who controls its growth? And suddenly, Jungkook and Lisa weren't just part of BTS or BLACKPINK. They were individual case studies in global entrepreneurship. This is where the business layer becomes unavoidable. Brand value isn't built on talent alone. It's built on trust, consistency, and strategic scarcity. Jungkook's selective visibility, combined with Calvin Klein's minimalistic, timeless branding, created a premium perception that resonates deeply with US and European markets. Lisa's association with LVMH ties her image to heritage, craftsmanship, and elite status, values that transcend trends and stabilize long-term revenue. And here's the part most people miss. These moves don't compete with BTS or BLACKPINK. They extend them. They create parallel lanes where individual members expand market reach without diluting group identity. That's not accidental. That's high-level brand architecture. As the strategy unfolds, the signals around Jungkook and Lisa keep stacking up. Brands begin paying closer attention to their every move. Campaign budgets grow. And the type of companies circling them quietly changes, from fast fashion and short-term hype to luxury houses, finance-backed sponsors, and long-term global partners. That's why the US market responded so fast. Not out of emotion, but out of calculation. So is this the new BTS and BLACKPINK era? The answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's more complex and more powerful. This is the era where K-pop stops asking for permission and starts setting terms. Where artists aren't just performers, but partners. Where influence is measured not just in streams, but in investment confidence. By the time most viewers realize what's happening, the infrastructure will already be in place. The partnerships, the branding, the cultural footprint. Jungkook and Lisa aren't following the American market. They're integrating into it, quietly, strategically, and on their own terms. And that quiet integration is exactly why it's so effective. In the US market, the most powerful moves are rarely loud. They're embedded into systems, advertising pipelines, retail placement, cultural narratives, and long-term brand storytelling. When Jungkook and Lisa appear, it doesn't feel forced or foreign. It feels native. That's the difference between expansion and domination. What's happening now mirrors how global brands are built at the highest level. First comes trust, then consistency, then scalability. Jungkook's image aligns with ideals that resonate deeply in Western culture: individuality, confidence, and understated strength. Lisa's presence embodies global sophistication, ambition, and modern luxury without excess. These qualities translate across borders, which is why their influence performs so well in markets like Germany, Scandinavia, Australia, and Canada, regions where consumers are highly selective and brand loyalty is earned, not given. Behind the scenes, this integration creates leverage. Brands don't just see artists anymore. They see platforms. Every appearance becomes a media asset. Every campaign becomes a multiplier for revenue, not just for fashion houses, but for streaming platforms, advertisers, and global distributors. This is where entrepreneurship quietly enters the picture. Jungkook and Lisa are no longer endpoints in a marketing funnel. They are starting points. There's also a mindset shift happening, and it's subtle but important. Younger audiences in the US are watching artists who understand ownership, positioning, and long-term value. That changes perception. It reframes success not as overnight fame, but as strategic growth. In many ways, this is redefining what a global artist looks like in the modern economy, someone who understands branding as well as performance and influence as well as art. As this momentum builds, the ripple effects become harder to ignore. More Western brands are restructuring how they approach Asian talent. More executives are rethinking how fandom translates into measurable consumer behavior. And more artists are realizing that global success isn't about chasing every opportunity. It's about choosing the right ones. This is why the moment feels different. Not explosive, but inevitable. Jungkook and Lisa Manoban aren't trying to prove anything. They're establishing presence. And presence in business terms is far more valuable than hype. It compounds over time. It attracts better partnerships, stronger investment, and more creative control. Eventually, this approach reshapes the industry itself. K-pop is no longer positioned as an external wave crashing into the US market. It's becoming part of the foundation, woven into fashion, advertising, and cultural influence at a structural level. When that happens, the conversation shifts permanently. And that's where the story leaves us now. Not at a finish line, but at a threshold. Because once integration is complete, visibility becomes optional. The real power moves happen quietly, long before headlines catch up. If you're watching closely, you're not just witnessing celebrity success. You're seeing how modern empires are built, one strategic decision at a time. And if there's one takeaway from this story, it's this: in today's entertainment economy, attention is currency, but alignment is power. The artists who understand that don't just go viral. They build empires. If you want to keep seeing the real strategies behind global success stories like this, where music, business, and influence collide, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more exclusive insights. Stay connected, stay curious. and stay ahead of the narrative. Because the next shift is already in motion, and it won't announce itself loudly.